What's up Tyria, this is Khai back with a new video and a very exciting one because this is my first build video and also my first video following the launch of Guild Wars 2's first expansion, Heart of Thorns. And this video is primarily directed at my fellow Mesmers, those of you who are maybe not sure how to incorporate your new abilities into your playstyle in PvE, as well as people who are interested in the Chronomancer and would like to see what it's capable of. I think it's definitely worth giving a try because it's super fun to play in my opinion. Its gameplay from moment to moment is really exciting and there's a lot of things you need to manage, but it's not too overwhelming, I think. So, first of all, let's see our equipment. I am running full Berserker armor with Runes of the Ranger, and Assassins is also very good, but I happen to have Berserkers, so that's what I run. And Ranger runes are sort of a poor man's Scholar runes, but I think they are pretty good for the expansion open world content, considering it may prove hard to maintain the buff from Scholar runes. I also have full Berserker trinkets. Again, Assassins is also good, and if you find yourself dying too much on such squishy stats, you may want to include some maybe Valkyrie or Soldier's gear, I don't know. I do have a Soldier's set of armor with me for what it's worth, but I don't really use it. For weapons, I'm using Assassins, other than my shield, which still needs some work. I need to make an Ascended shield. But yeah, I'm using Assassin's weapons with Sigil of Force in my sword, which is going to be our primary damage weapon. And in my offhands I use Sigil of Accuracy. On Greatsword I have Force and Accuracy as well. About shield, it may not be the best offhand for PvE, but it's pretty nice for the new open world content. The block can save your life. You also have a nice CC that lets you destroy them break bars quite effectively, and it's just fun to use. It may not turn out to be the most optimal offhand to use, but it's definitely something new and something worth checking out, so I decided to run with shield anyway. Other than that, if you don't like shield, you can always go for your second sword. You still have a block as well as a very high damage Phantasm. And yeah, focus is also very good. For my first minutes in the expansion, in the first maps, I didn't use Greatsword, I just used shield offhand and focus for mobility and utility such as reflects and also a decent damage Phantasm. But I decided, as soon as I unlocked this minor trait that lets you move 25% faster, I just ditched focus and I switched to shield full time, as well as Greatsword, because it's nice to keep it around. Sometimes you just need this ranged DPS to be effective in some fights, because it may prove a bit too challenging to stay in melee all the time. But I do think that Mesmer, even in Zerker gear, is one of the class that can survive for the most part when in melee range in HoT, because we have so many evades and blocks and invulnerabilities. I think if you know the abilities of your opponents, you can time your stuff and be able to survive anyway, even in squishy gear. So moving on to our traits or specializations, we have Domination. We're going for the increased damage on our illusions, of course, because our phantasms are still one of our main sources of damage. Here we're going for blurred inscriptions, which gives us distortion and as well as condition removal on our heal. I will get to the heal in a second, but if you want to run this variant with this heal, then it's a good trait to have. It can let you use your, for example, your Greatsword Phantasm and then instantly reset it and use it again for better DPS. But you need to be careful, because you may need this heal for healing, not only DPS, so it requires some getting used to, I suppose. And here, as long as you are running Greatsword, I think Imagined Burden is a good choice. If you are not, then go for Mental Anguish, because with this build with Chrono we can shatter, we can finally shatter our stuff from time to time. It makes for more interesting gameplay, and this damage increase on the Mind Drag is really good. But let's stick with that for a moment. I decided to ditch dueling for Chronomancer, but it is possible to still run dueling. I'll get to this in a second. But first we have Inspiration, and we are going for increased health on our phantasms, so they don't die as much. Here we can go, as if we are running Focus, then Warden's Feedback. We have shorter cooldown on our Focus skills, and we can use it to reflect stuff. If you are without Focus like me, go for Restorative Illusions. It's always some amount of condi removal on your shatters that can prove life-saving even, as well as some heal. And here we have Illusionary Inspiration. Not much to say. It's some additional distortion as well as Boon Share. If you still want to use dueling, even without mantras, I guess you could go for Deceptive Evasion, because you do want to have all your free illusions up before you use Continuum Split. So if you want to just rush in the fight and use Continuum Split as soon as possible, then it may be good for spamming some illusions. But other than that, I think it may not be worth it, because you need to watch out not to override your phantasms with your clones, and sometimes you just have to dodge, and it can make for a DPS decrease. But if you do want to go for dueling, Phantasmal Fury is the way to go, and here I guess Fencer's Finesse. So you have your Blurred Frenzy of cooldown more frequently, and you can stay alive more through that. Mainly I would take dueling for this trait, which is awesome and makes for almost permanent, basically permanent fury if your target is below 75%. But as you can see, we already have very high crit chance, so this fury is only useful in a solo setting. When we are running around the new maps in a group scenario, I think it's we'll get up to 100% crit chance without it. So my choice is Inspiration with the traits I have already discussed. For Chronomancer, I went for a setup that lets us build up as much alacrity as we want to. It lets us have alacrity on wells, on every well, which is awesome. It makes our alacrity that we apply to ourselves last even longer. This minor trait gives us alacrity on shatters, and here we have Time Marches On, which is awesome and makes for much better mobility even without swiftness. And this trait is an absolute game changer, and I love it. It's Chronophantasma. Basically, if you shatter your phantasms, they are resummoned, so you don't have to summon them again manually. So this enables us to use our shatters way more as part of our DPS rotation. It lets us mind drag. which also gives us alacrity, which also gives us condi removal, and yeah, it's all around very good. So moving on to our utilities. I have already discussed the heal, it's very good. If you do want to use the new heal, it's also nice, and in the end I did switch to this heal because I just wanted to have something new in my playstyle. If you do go for this heal, for more alacrity as well as AoE heal, then this trait is... I guess you can still take it for the distortion on inspiration, see that from this trait, but you can also go, for example, for Furious Interruption, so you can gain quickness. You do have some CC with your Tides of Time and also with your Shatter number 3, and if you do go for it with your Gravity Well, so yeah, it can increase your DPS a bit if you decide not to go for the Signet. Next up we have our utilities. As you can see, I went for a full well setup. I do like wells a lot. Basically they are all good. Well of Calamity is our main DPS well that we can just spam off cooldown. It's good damage and some free alacrity. Well of Recall I like a lot because it gives even more alacrity and also chills enemies, and chill drains enemy break bars, so it's good for that. You can also switch to Well of Action because slow and quickness is also very good, so I'm very happy with the wells. Well of Precognition is very strong in certain scenarios. It's AoE stability for your allies and for yourself, and also 3 seconds of distortion. It's also a stun break, which I'm very happy about, and it can let you survive in many situations if you don't have your Blurred Frenzy or your block or your distortion, etc. For your elite skill, I mean, for DPS it's still the best to go Time Warp because this quickness is just so good. You can pair it up with Continuum Split for double Time Warp, and yeah, in that case it's just amazing. But I did use the Gravity Well for some time as well. It's nice for some encounters when you have to drain enemy break bars quickly. It's nice CC, it's a pretty short cooldown, and you can use it even more with Continuum Split. So I definitely like it, and I do think it has its uses, but mainly outside of PvE, I think. Okay, some other options with your utilities. If you just want to move around quickly from objective to objective, like you are exploring the new maps or going to find a personal story step or whatever, for mobility, Signet of Inspiration. Along with Focus, it lets you maintain permanent swiftness basically, and also of course Blink is very good to move around fast. And yeah, I think that would be about it when it comes to the build itself. Let me know what you think, guys. As I said, there are many different options you can go for, that's just basically what suits me. And for the general playstyle, you want to, as much as you can, you want to stick with your sword weapon set, greatsword only if you do need to be ranged, you are afraid of dying. Basically you engage, you want to spam as many clones or illusions. Basically you want to use your phantasms, and you want to use some other illusions to get to 3 illusions. But then for your optimal DPS you want to Continuum Split with all the illusions, so you get a ton of time to spam your skills in Continuum Split. You use Time Warp, you use your wells, and you spam your shatters of cooldown basically. Your phantasms will still get resummoned, and you can just spam them for their not only for their effects but also for some healing, which is negligible because you will get reverted back in time anyway, so maybe not for the healing, but at least for the alacrity, so you can get as much alacrity as you possibly can. Then you revert back in time, and you can use your wells again, and you can use your time warp again, and whatever you want. And yeah, just time your Blurred Frenzy correctly and your block, and you will be able to survive for the most part in the HoT PvE content. I think I will wrap the video up with some demonstration of how to DPS, and yeah, see you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed the video. There are links to my Twitch and my Twitter in the description if that's something you are interested in. Of course, you can also subscribe here on YouTube to keep in touch. And yeah, see you around.